Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at r/ best of Redditor updates. This one may be very annoying and very anger-inducing. And it's also about weddings again. This is twice in a row from when I've been reading Best of Redditor updates, but quite often I'll just kind of close my eyes, scroll a little, and pick one. So yeah. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. So then, this one is posted by Direct Caterpillar 77, and the title is My Husband Got Jealous Over the Girl He Led On for Years at Our Wedding. Oh, I'm telling you now. I'd be flipping tables. I'd be going nuts. So, of course, the Direct Caterpillar 77 is not the original poster, just the person who compiled these and put them into Best of Redditor updates. The original poster is on the screen, and it was originally posted to r/True Off My Chest. True Off My Chest is such a gem, by the way, such a gem of a subreddit, because one minute it's hilarious, next minute you could read the most heinous shite you've ever read in your life. There is no in between. It's crazy, but also it's kind of addictive to read. So then, this one was originally posted November 6th, 2022. I, 25F, got married to my husband, 24M, we'll call him Jim, a week ago after dating for 2.5 years. Jim has a friend called Misha, 22F, who was invited to the wedding. My goodness, you guys are very young getting married. That's quite young. At that age, I didn't even know what I wanted for tea. He and Misha have known each other since high school and were close friends, and Misha had a very obvious crush on Jim from what he and others who know them have told me. Jim told me this after I met Misha for the first time and confessed that he leaned into her crush and led her on throughout their high school years and for a little while after before we got together because he was struggling with his mental health and he really liked the attention. Jim? Oh, Jimmy boy? That's not okay. He seemed genuinely guilty about all of that because he thought Misha was a nice girl and a good friend, and because he showed guilt, I didn't feel the need to bring it up or argue about it despite thinking it was a crappy thing to do. Does anybody else kind of feel like Jim is trying to basically get ahead of the game here and be like, oh yeah, no, I only leaned into it because I liked the attention, I didn't like her, and he's like trying to dodge around and skirt around basically admitting that he had a thing for Misha. Do we think that that's what's going on here? I mean, it probably is, going by the title alone. Plus, Misha is a nice girl who has never overstepped boundaries and has been nothing but kind and friendly towards me, and I now consider her a friend too. Misha moved away to the city last year and has done really well for herself and has a long-term boyfriend who none of us have met yet, so when it came to sending wedding invites, I told her she was welcome to bring him as her +1. The first red flag came when Jim was weirdly resistant to the idea of Misha bringing her boyfriend, but he excused it on being concerned about the number of guests we invited and the matter was dropped. Yeah, that's red flag number 1 for sure. When the wedding day came, Misha showed up in this beautiful dress, nothing inappropriate for a wedding, and with her boyfriend on her arm, who I'll admit is a very handsome guy. Think a Kit Harington type. Is that the guy who played Jon Snow? I mean, yeah, he's definitely doable. She's also lost weight and has a haircut that suits her better, and I thought she looked great. We also found out throughout the night that her boyfriend is very successful and earns more than practically anyone else who attended. Misha has fallen on her feetsies. Now, of course, those things aren't important. If you love them, then, you know, it doesn't matter. But still, if you love a man, they have that bonus. Throughout the reception, I noticed Jim glaring at Misha and her boyfriend the whole time, and he was really cold and short towards her when she came over to congratulate us and give us a gift. He was also straight up kind of rude to her boyfriend when Misha introduced us to him. Like, the concerning thing about this, though, is this seems to be something that happens often, because I swear, for a minute then I had to pause and go and have a good think on whether I'd read this before, because we have read a story incredibly similar where the boyfriend or the partner was pining after a friend or an ex-girlfriend. dudes, sort yourselves out, man. When his mum, who's always known and liked Misha, mentioned that she was glad Misha found a great guy and praised her boyfriend for being so nice, Jim snapped that at least she won't be desperate and hung up on me for the rest of her life. Oh, Jim, I bet she hasn't thought of you since school like that, mate. Which I thought was cruel and uncalled for, but I didn't challenge him because I didn't want to argue at my wedding despite the fact that he frankly sounded bitter. I'm also now wondering if Misha was not the one that had the crush in the school days. I'm wondering if it was Jim who had the crush. The whole thing has left an awful taste in my mouth, and I can't help but think that Jim got jealous that Misha has found a guy who's honestly quite a catch, who she's clearly very in love with, and is now completely over Jim. Half update, after getting some PMs from people, I decided to go through his phone while he was napping after work, and needless to say, this marriage is over. Oh dear. I'll post a real update when I have sorted everything out. Jim, what have you done, Jim? So, relevant comments. Stuck in my mind 77 says, it's giving bitter. Can't imagine how that must have been for you. Says a lot about his character, to be honest. It really does. OOP then says, it felt like watching a kid get upset at another kid for playing with a toy they personally never wanted to play with in the first place, if that makes any sense. Stuck in my mind 77 then replies, I get it, but I mean, apart from this, have you never had an indication of what a crappy guy he is? I mean, character matters, and he lacks a lot of it. Can imagine it being so unsettling and such a turn-off. Honestly, I feel so bad because this OP's not even been married for very long and they're already finding out that their husband is actually a mega turd and now the divorce process has to proceed. OOP then says, he's definitely always been quite insecure, but I thought it was something he was really working on and making progress with. Update November 14th, 2022, 8 days later. Hey everyone, I'm posting this here because I said in my last post that I would update when I was able to. Pretty much the day after my original post, I got some PMs from people suggesting that I go through my husband Jim's phone to see if he and Misha were truly just friends before this, and that nothing romantic happened between them that would explain his reaction at the wedding. He always takes a 45-minute nap after work, so I use that as my opportunity to swipe his phone from where it was charging on his desk so that I could look through it. I've seen him put in his passcode a ton of times, so that wasn't an issue. I didn't find anything in his texts with her, but I know that Jim goes on Instagram a lot, so I checked there too. The immediate red flag was that he used an app lock that required a passcode to access Instagram. But the dumbass used the same passcode that he uses to unlock his phone, so I got into that right away. It's his birth year, go figure. This is one thing I love when we read these cheating stories. The cheater is always so dense and covers their tracks terribly, and it's so satisfying to see. So then they go on to say, and what would you know? I go to his messages with Misha and find messages from him the morning after our wedding telling her how beautiful she looked that night, how much he missed her, how he felt that her boyfriend being there spoiled his opportunity to catch up with her and that he was desperate to meet her. I'm sorry. You wanted to try and catch up, which I think is just this husband's code for hookup, and, you know, reignite whatever flame there was with this Misha lass at his wedding. The mind friggin' boggles. So Misha never replied to these messages, and he sent more to her later that day. I won't get into what he said because they were very personal insults that were frankly just gross. Oh, he did the nice guy flip-flop. He's like, you're so beautiful. You dirty ugly bitch, you don't want me, what the hell? But I just think the kind of stuff that you would read on that nice guy subreddit. I genuinely didn't read down there. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you picked that up too, OP. Misha left him on red, and when I clicked on her account, it appears that she blocked him. I scrolled through their messages quite far back, and I believe nothing romantic has happened between them. I wish that was all, but looking into his other conversations on Instagram, I found out that he's been messaging other girls on there too. Yet see, there is never just one with these kind of guys. They seemed like aspiring Instagram models from our area. Most of these conversations were just him shooting his shot and getting left on red. But others had evolved into flirting, and 2 of them resulted in sexting. Now, I know that some people out there will try and argue, and I don't think anyone from our little tiny community would argue this, but I know there are people out there in the wider world that will argue that if it never got to something in person, it's not cheating. It is, though. It really is. And I would go nuts if I had a partner and found out he was doing this. He wouldn't be a partner anymore, I can tell you that for free. So then they go on to say, and the most embarrassing part of all, the nudes he was sending to these women weren't even of him. No way. I know what his body looks like, and he doesn't have chiseled abs and isn't that well endowed. Sick burn. I think he must have found a man's profile on some adult websites and used those pictures, just cropping the face out. The dirty, slimy little get. These 2 conversations happened in the past 6 months. I ended up texting his mum and his brother from my phone, asking them to come and pick him up from the apartment, and then I went to wake him up. I told him that I knew about the girls he was messaging on Instagram, that he needed to pack a bag and get the hell out before I started throwing his stuff out onto the street and causing a scene. I love that. He started crying and begging me not to kick him out, and swore that they were just messages and that he would never actually cheat on me. But I don't believe him for a second, and emotional cheating is cheating in my book, I say, OP, so I agree with your actions. Then he had the nerve to tell me that he didn't want me to tell anyone else about what he had done, but I had left the room and started ignoring him by that point. See, that's the thing. If you don't believe you've done anything wrong, you would not feel guilty or ashamed enough to be like, no, don't tell anyone what I've done. It's such an obvious thing. Like, you can't pretend you're not guilty. If you're so ashamed and don't want people to know, you can't pretend that what you said was okay if you don't want people to know. He left with his mum and brother and is staying there from what I know. I've blocked him on everything for the time being until I'm ready to tell him that I'm seeking annulment. Thankfully, where I'm from, you can get one almost no questions asked as long as you haven't been married for longer than 30 days. And I've already looked into the process. That's amazing. I haven't really left my apartment at all this week, and I've been calling in sick to work because I don't feel like I can face people. I'm just so embarrassed that I've wasted over 2 years on this man and that I married him in the first place. I don't feel like I can even talk to people about this, so posted here has helped, and I'd like to thank you all for your kind words, advice and support. I might reach out to Misha when the dust has settled, but I think I'll need to build up some courage for that. Lovey, don't feel embarrassed. I have wasted far longer on far less worthy. So don't you worry, my love. We've all been there and done it, and every one of us will waste far more time than we should have on the wrong people at some point in our lives. We are but humans. New update. An update to let you know how I am. March 15th, 2023, 4 months later. Hello everyone, I just thought I'd give an update to my situation since I still get messages of support on here every week or so. That's so cute. You'll be glad to hear that I was able to get the annulment and I didn't have to go through a messy divorce with Jim. I struck an agreement with him that I wouldn't tell a soul about his cheating or what happened with Misha and would leave him alone forever if he agreed to the annulment and got over it quickly. I mean, I would so go back on that promise. He didn't keep his promise to, be faithful when he got with you. So I just think it's one of them. I did end up sticking to my end of the bargain, but it ended up not mattering because it turns out his brother is quite the gossip and let the cat out of the bag over Christmas after getting into an argument with Jim while drunk. Oh, yes. A lot of Jim's family were miffed and asked for the money they contributed to his half of the wedding fund back, and some of our mutual friends have cut contact with him. Oh, if this isn't the consequences of your actions, Jim. A couple of our friends plastered everything on Facebook and humiliated him. It was interesting to watch the back and forth between them and Jim, honestly. I lived in our apartment and covered the rent on my own while he lived at his parents' until the lease ended back in January. And I'm now living with my dad, and I plan to stay here for a while and take things easy. In January, I also tried reaching out to Misha via text asking if she'd like to meet up for coffee to talk about anything. I never got a response from her directly, but a few days later I got a call from her number and it was her boyfriend on the other end. He said they were both sorry for what had happened to me and that they hope I'm doing well, but Misha thought it was best to cease any contact as this whole ordeal made her anxiety and mental health problems spiral and had landed her back in therapy. I did ask why she never told me that Jim had messaged her the day after the wedding, and her boyfriend confessed that he advised her not to get involved, and his direct words were, "I'm sorry to sound rude, but it's not her circus. I'm a little disappointed that she doesn't want to talk to me, but I get where she's coming from, and I can't force her to do anything." To be honest, I think she's been looking for a way to divorce herself from our hometown and the people she and Jim knew back in high school for a while now. Again, makes me wonder if Jim told the truth about Misha having this big crush and if actually Jim was a massive frigging creep and had a pesty crush on her. As for me, I'm also in therapy as I want to sort through these feelings and get back to feeling good about myself again before I even think about entering the dating scene again. Very smart, very smart. I've also been firm about ending friendships with anyone who's taken Jim's side, as I don't want him finding his way into my life again. So far, he's stayed away from me and hasn't tried to contact me, although his mum reached out over Christmas to ask me if there was any chance I might forgive Jim. Come off it, love. And take him back as, in her opinion, you two are just meant to be together. I mean, I respect the romantic in you, love, but come on now. Jim was just one agreement away from sticking his nib in someone he shouldn't. Let's be fair. I didn't respond to her, and I've blocked her on pretty much everything now too. Thank you again for all your kind words and support. I'm certain leaving this a-hole would have been harder for me had I not had hundreds of comments backing me up. And this is where the internet receives a win, because that's so good. Sometimes I do feel like, as much as we complain about the internet and people on the internet, because some people on the internet don't know how to behave, but there's also a massive majority who are just there, ready and willing to support and help when they're needed. And it's quite invaluable for some of these people that are posting, especially those that don't maybe have a very large social circle or family or whatever. It's quite invaluable to some people, and the difference between an awful outcome and a good one. So let's have a look at what some of the people on the Best of Redditor Updates sub have to say about this post. So 4Ranger says, the way her ex-mother-in-law asked OP to take him back made me laugh. Yeah, it literally made me laugh too. It reeks of, I can't stand my own son, please get him out of my house. Literally. Aelupt says, when my friend's abusive ex had a stroke, his family called asking her to take him back since he can't hurt you anymore. What the hell? No! Oh my goodness, that's awful. Some people really are shit. Yeah. Oh, so shit. That is awful. I am not laughing because I find that funny. I am laughing because I am shocked. And that is my go-to response when I'm shocked, by the way. Just to point that out. Endiqua says, I had a similar experience after my ex's stroke, with pressure to let him see the kids because he's changed and he doesn't remember anything about the bad stuff. Tough. The person who is on the receiving end of that bad stuff certainly remembers and shouldn't be traumatized just because they've had a medical issue. Yeah, well, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers, and it wouldn't do anything positive for the kids. They dropped contact after I said no. Honestly, the absolute audacity of some people and the just complete lack of empathy never ceases to amaze and appall me. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for today. Shall we find a little comment to read from you guys? So this was on an Am I the Devil post where I asked what music people thought I was into. I can't remember why we were discussing music now, but I was curious. Felix Potato says, I'm guessing you're somewhere in the goth metal corner with your music preferences. And you know what? You would be pretty bang on, to be fair. More so metal, but I kind of branch out now and then if I find someone or a band that I particularly like. I don't branch out far. It always stays erring on the heavier side, if that makes sense. At the moment, though, I'm kind of a little bit obsessed with Sleep Token, I'm not gonna lie. I know. There's something about that dude's voice that is just like, I like that. It itches a side of my brain that needs itching. And actually, I find it very calming. And my brain goes a million miles an hour all the time. There's a million thoughts going on all at once. And I find that it actually is quite calming to me. So I listen to Sleep Token in my headphones whilst I'm recording these because it helps to shut up the other voices and helps me concentrate on reading. But yeah, heavier is definitely my forte. So well done. Good guess. Anyway, if you made it all the way to the end, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like and subscribe, I'll appreciate you even more. And it will help you find your way back here and help me pop up in your recommendeds. So, whatever it is you're doing for the rest of your day, I hope you have a really good rest of your day. Goodbye.